One of the very first decisions in any VDI design is whether a desktop is persistent or non-persistent, and it cascades into storage cost, patching strategy, and whether you need serious profile tooling at all. In this lesson we'll define pooled and personal desktop models, explain why non-persistent pools are unusable without a profile solution, and survey the 3 tools you'll actually deploy: FSLogix, Citrix Profile Management, and Omnissa Dynamic Environment Manager. In a pooled host pool, users don't own a specific virtual machine. The broker assigns them any available healthy host, and on logoff the host is typically reset back to its clean golden image state. This is the model that makes VDI economical at scale. You patch and validate one image instead of 1,000 machines, storage stays cheap, and a compromised session simply evaporates on reset. The cost is that nothing the user does to the machine itself survives between sessions. In a personal host pool, each user is permanently assigned their own virtual machine that behaves like a traditional PC, with changes persisting and locally installed software staying installed. This suits power users and specialists running software that resists centralized packaging, but it brings back real operational burden. Every VM needs individual patching and monitoring, and per-user storage cost climbs because each disk grows independently. Most real deployments run both models side by side. Here's the sharp edge. Deploy a pooled desktop with no profile solution, and every single logon looks like a brand new machine to the user. Wallpaper, pinned taskbar apps, saved documents, all gone, because they might land on a completely different physical host than last time, and that host was just reset to golden image defaults anyway. Profile management solves this by separating user-specific state from machine state and reattaching it at logon regardless of which host the user lands on. This is not optional for pooled desktops, it's the feature that makes them usable at all. Every major platform has settled on essentially the same architecture with its own product name. FSLogix is Microsoft's tool, bundled with qualifying Microsoft 365 and Windows Enterprise licenses, and it comes pre-installed on Windows Enterprise multi-session images. Citrix Profile Management is part of Citrix Virtual Apps and Desktops. Omnissa Dynamic Environment Manager, or DM, is part of the Horizon ecosystem and additionally layers in context-aware policy that changes based on device, location, or network. Same underlying problem, 3 vendor-aligned solutions. Before container-based tools matured, the standard technique was folder redirection, a group policy setting that redirects specific known folders like documents and desktop to a network share, so their contents survive even though the local profile doesn't. It's simple, but it has real limits. Application settings stored in the registry or in app data folders outside the redirected set aren't covered, and heavy file I/O over a plain network share can be slow. Container-based profiles instead package the entire user profile, registry hive included, into a single virtual disk, mounted directly onto the session-hosted logon as if it were local storage. This covers far more of the actual user experience than folder redirection, capturing application settings and not just files, and it generally performs better because the operating system treats the mounted container as local rather than performing granular network operations for every read and write. For FSLogix specifically, the profile container needs a storage backend reachable by every session host in the pool, commonly Azure files with intra-Kerberos authentication, or Azure NetApp files for higher performance needs. Because the container is mounted live over the network for the entire session, if that storage tier is slow, undersized, or unavailable, logon times spike and sessions can fail outright. A stuck or corrupted profile container that fails to release its lock from a previous session is one of the single most common FSLogix support tickets you will ever see. The pattern to internalize persistence is a machine-level property, and the profile layer is what compensates when you deliberately give that property up. A properly sized, properly configured profile container makes users never notice the trade was made. In the final lesson of this module, we turn to the practical question every EUC engineer eventually has to answer for a budget conversation. What does all of this actually cost? How does Windows and platform licensing work for VDI? And how do you size compute correctly for the users you're serving?